Hi everyone, welcome to the fourth and final video of the week 1 lecture. We're going to do a little exercise over the next few minutes to help you formulate an example or a few examples in your mind that will hopefully help you to apply what we're doing in this module to the things that excite you and give you purpose in your life. The reason why we're doing this exercise is because, as I've already said before, at the heart of it, entrepreneurship isn't about starting companies. It's about making your mark on the world in whatever way is important to you. I love this quote by Annika Mistry, the founder of DevMind VR, a virtual reality aid to teach individuals with neurodiversity's social skills. She says, entrepreneurship is activism in disguise. This is similar to what Steve Jobs meant. Obviously, he's a lot more famous when he said, I want to put a ding in the universe. Now, your mark on the universe doesn't need to be big like Steve Jobs, and you likely don't know what it's going to be yet, and you're not probably going to find it through this exercise, but it's not too early to start thinking about it. And I think putting some thought into it early on will help you to have some, at the very least, to have some ready examples to apply some of the concepts in this course to. So in this exercise, we're going to think through your interests, so what you like, your skills, what you're good at, and your impact, what problems you hope to eventually solve in the world. Taken together, your interest and skills help you to define your passion, and when combined with the problems that you want to solve, your passion and impact can help you to identify your purpose. Let's start with what interests you. One way to identify your interest is to ask your friends what you always talk about. So if you asked a friend what you talk about most, what would they say? Well, you could guess, but you might be surprised actually at what they say. So what I'd really like you to do right now is to pause this video, text a friend, ask them, and then jot down some notes about what they say. Another way to brainstorm your interests is to think about what you do if you were rich. If you and your family never had to worry about money, what would you spend your time doing? Now, you'll see that there's some redundancy here in these two questions. I'm doing this on purpose because sometimes asking the same thing in two different ways can yield really interesting new insights that neither question alone would necessarily uncover. So this is something called triangulation, and it's an interview technique that we're going to talk about when we talk about customer interviewing. But we're going to use it for the purposes of this exercise as well. So now I'd like you to pause the video again, ponder this question, and then jot down some ideas in the same slide. Now that we've identified a list of your interests, let's think about your skills. But most people don't like to brag, and this can kind of get in the way of identifying skills sometimes. So one way to brainstorm your skills is to think about what you're not necessarily great at, but what you're above average at. Now again, pause the video, have a think about what you think you're at least above average at, and take some notes. Going back to triangulation, let's ask this another way. Another way to brainstorm your skills is to think about what you'd like to get better at doing, because most people enjoy improving on things that they're already at least somewhat good at or have some natural proclivity for. So again, please pause the video and jot down some notes. Now, as you can see from the Venn diagram on the screen, the intersection of what you like and what you're good at can help you to get at what you're really passionate about. More specifically, to identify your passion, look back at your interests and jot down what really excites you. Then look back at your skills and jot down, again, what you're interested in getting better at. Then think of one or two ways to combine your interests and skills, and these ideas can reflect your passion. Now it's your turn to do this, so hit pause again and take a few minutes to sketch this out. Now that you've identified one or two of your passions, it's time to identify the kind of impact you want to have on the world. In other words, what kind of problems are you most interested in solving? In order to brainstorm this, you could start by thinking about groups of people you'd be excited to help. You could also think about local problems you're interested in helping with. You could also think about global problems you're interested in helping with. And thinking about these might help to get the gears turning. So again, I'd like to ask you to stop for a moment and jot down some notes to answer these questions. Now that you've thought through the types of problems you're excited to solve, or the kind of impact that you want to have on the world, you have all the pieces you need to identify your purpose. So to do this, I want you to now look back at your passions and jot down maybe one or two ideas that really stand out to you. Then I want you to look back at your impacts and jot down again a couple of ideas that stand out. Finally, I want you to think about whether there might be ways to combine those two. And this is an area that might be considered a purpose. Now, this is not to say that you are expected to find your ultimate life's purpose at this stage in your life. It's likely to change and grow and shift over time. But I find that these sorts of structured thought exercise can be really helpful even at this early stage in your life and your career. So let's walk through a quick example. Remember I mentioned Anika Mistry at the beginning of this lecture, who founded a company called DevMind VR. So Anika started her journey because she had a best friend with autism who was going to have to move schools to get access to resources that would help her to manage her autism. And this piqued her interest. She had a real personal invested interest in helping her friend. She also really loved learning about and getting better at coding and virtual reality. So let's call this her skill set. And this combination of interests and skills led her to start to develop a passion for looking for tech-based solutions for young people with neurodiversities, which was the population she was interested in serving. And this, in turn, led her to achieving impact by designing a virtual reality aid to help those individuals to acquire social skills. So I'm going to ask you to fill this all in your worksheet and think about an area that might represent your purpose, or at least one of them. Thank you for completing this exercise, everyone. I hope it provided you with some insights that may lead into what your purpose may someday be. Again, this is not necessarily what your life's purpose is going to ultimately be. It's just a way to get the wheels turning and have some ready examples of your own to connect with some of the materials we talk about over the course of the module. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.